Hello, you medicated metallic marauders. Yeah, it's a malt mention, and that means one thing, maltmates. You've arrived in the bothy. Welcome to Ralphie.com, the channel on YouTube, on the internet, which specialises in giving you a bit of a deep dive on specific high quality sipping spirits. Mainly Scotch single malt whisky, to be honest, but never a moment wasted. And now, before I go any further, a big thank you to Dan Swank for providing the malt mention. I shall now pour. Oh, the cork's a bit stiff. Oh, twisty. There we go. Good pop, that one. I shall now pour some single malt from Kingsbarns Distillery, which is a small family-owned distillery located just outside, just southeast of St Andrews in the Kingdom of Fife in Scotland, and that makes it a lowland single malt whisky distillery. A very interesting place which I have visited in the past and got a very warm welcome there. A lovely team, people who are enthusiastic, know they're on a mission, and they're generally getting it right. However, I've held back from reviewing Kingsbarns single malt whisky for a little while yet, because like all young distilleries, it just needs time to settle down, find its feet, and for its portfolio of casks in the warehouse to get a little bit of age behind them so that they present the authenticity of the experience. I don't want to be rushing into too many new distilleries, new Scotch whisky distilleries that have been created and opened in the last decade or so, and either say too many nice things about them or be disparaging. Young distilleries need time to find their flavour. However, when they do and they bottle it, it's well worth reviewing. So I am reviewing for you the cask strength version of Bellrock. It's a non-age stated single malt matured in a combination of Oloroso or sherry butts and bourbon, ex-bourbon barrels. Yeah, it is Oloroso, ex-Oloroso sherry butts. I've poured some, give it a wee roll around the glass just to open it up. And I'm going to tell you just a little bit more about Kingsbarns Distillery. If you're visiting St Andrews, and it's a popular destination, particular for golfers, the distillery is well worth a visit. It's very immediate and very much hands-on, and typical with smaller distilleries, rather compared to the big corporate multinational distilleries. They're not standoffish. They don't give you the strict portion controlled experience where you can't take photographs in the still house in case things blow up. Nonsense. Which unfortunately is still happening in some distilleries, these statements. It's got quite a friendly and knowledgeable team, and it's an interesting style of contemporary whisky making. They're not actually being totally traditional. And I'm going to explain this to you now, in the fact that their head distiller has a brewing background, and therefore, unlike many people who only work in distilleries, as a brewer, he's got much more of a mature perception of yeast influence. And whilst the majority of Scotch whisky distilleries simply source generic fermentation yeast from their supplier, Kingsbarns are noted for using 2 yeast varieties, not just the one. They will use a proportion of the generic fermentation specific yield generating yeast, but they also use a second variety of yeast which is there to deliver more fruitiness into the flavour of the new make. Another thing I want to bring to your attention, and I cannot believe that Kingsbarns are not making more of this, because they really should. And that is the fact that hidden away on both the front label and the back label, very discreetly presented, is, in fact, in the front label, it's just put as a wee sort of sigil almost. And it's basically distilled from Fife barley. So in fact, Kingsbarns are using local barley. Now, local barley is big news to us single malt drinkers, because it tells us one important thing. When indigenous, local variety, local growing barleys are used, you're getting a different style of barley, delivering a different yield of not just alcohol but also flavours. And generally, the yield of alcohol from local barleys will be slightly lower, and the yield of actual flavour will be slightly higher. And of course, this gets amplified over time when in the cask. So this is actually a very, very important thing to be aware of with this distillery, which very few people and commentators seem to have cottoned onto. It's highly significant. You will also find that once you've sourced your steam bunker, on the back of the label, and it's not the most illegible of writing, it's saying the single malt is distilled using Fife barley and expertly blended from spirit matured in 2 types of cask, ex-Oloroso sherry butts and ex-bourbon barrels. Generally, when distillers are bringing together ex-sherry casks, ex-bourbon casks, they are amplifying the complexity of oak maturation, because they may occasionally, with sherry casks, be using European oaks. With European oaks from sherry casks, with ex-bourbon casks, they are primarily, mainly, more or less totally, using American oak. American oak and European oak deliver different flavours. Not only that, but they have provided information in, as we delve our single malt forensics, that it's Oloroso butts. Now, butts are large volume containers that can be anything from 450 litres up to 600 plus, depending on the style of butt. Whereas ex-bourbon casks, bourbon barrels, have got a much smaller capacity of fill, and therefore the influence of the cask over time is going to be more prominent from the bourbon casks than it is necessarily going to be from the sherry casks, because of the volume to surface ratio component. Right, this is a bit of a deep dive, but let's push on with this. The result is that as soon as you nose this whisky, for a relatively young age product, and I don't put this at any more than 6 years old, what we're seeing already at this young age is a wonderfully composed, mature, fresh, spirit-driven single malt. What's the spirit driving at in the nose? Unpeated, completely unpeated. It is grain rich. As soon as you nose it, when you've experienced other local barley single malts from Bruichladdich, from Springbank, from Benromach, for example, you're getting that extra richness of the raw ingredient. And it's really showing here wonderfully well. First taste. Clean, nippy, spirit driven, initially sweet, then turning soft sour, and in with the sour is a beautiful, substantial grain bitterness, including a slight, that's what it is, it's a slight umami or grain savoury note. At this point, I'm going to add, with my handy little mini ladle, also known as a soda spoon, two 5 millilitre measures of fresh rested tap water. I'm going to leave this for a couple of minutes. The distillery use water from their own location. They happen to have an artisanal well under the distillery. That doesn't, in my opinion, influence the whisky significantly, but significantly it contributes, because each and every step of the process in a small distillery's singularity of producing single malt whisky is adding up and compounding into the final result. And I think at this moment in time, here in 2024, with Ralphie Review 1026, which I should have mentioned at the beginning of the video, but I forgot, what we're seeing is a distillery really coming of age. The price of this bottle, you're talking about £70. It may be a bit more expensive depending on where you buy it. For a cask strength, a high strength whisky. And bear in mind, this is bottled at, where does it say it? It says it somewhere, 61.1%. So effectively it's a bottle and a half. It's real concentrating the flavours here. In my opinion, that's for the quality of what you're getting and the authenticity of production, which is the complete antithesis of your corporate multinationals. I mean, this is a small family-owned distillery, and it shows. It really shows in the feel of the experience when we're smelling and tasting the product. I've been really enjoying this, and I highly recommend it to you. This is a very good bottled example of a distillery, a young Scotch single malt distillery, which is finally coming of age. Cheers. Unchill filtered, natural colour. Where will I find it on the label? Where will I find that information? Not found it. Not found it. Still not found it. Okay. It doesn't say it. That surprises me. At a moment in time when small distilleries need to showcase their separation from the corporate multinationals, who, bear in mind, the big companies are compulsive in heavy filtering the whisky to denature and basically make it appeal to a wider range of more passive, more disinterested consumers. You know, they really should be showcasing the naturalness of presentation. So I'm going to have a look at the box here. Perhaps it says it here. Yeah, here we go. I found it. I've found it. Tucked down at the bottom in gold writing where it's very easy to miss, non-chill filtered and natural colour. Distillers, please keep the important information on the front label. It's where it needs to be. Please protect the future of your reputation. So now we know, unchill filtered, natural colour. But the litmus test, the real telling is in how misty this becomes. Within a few minutes, we should be seeing some Scotch mist appear in the glass to confirm the claim that they are making that it is unchill filtered. Certainly, I'm noticing on the nose, the fullness of the aroma is suggesting that it hasn't been chill filtered. Let's taste it and nose it. More floral, rich, opaque, fruity notes, non-specific. Sure, we could mention apple, mention very soft pineapple, a little bit of guava in the background, a tiny touch of, what's that orangey fruit with the pip that cures cancer? Apricot. I knew I'd get it. It's got a very slight soft apricot note as well. There's a soft grainy eau de cologne note and soft lemon sort of confectionery soft, lemon sort of pie type thing. Lemon curd. And also there's just a soft, very generalised, slight confectionery note. Not hostile and overtly sugary, far from it. Just a soft monosaccharide, almost glucose soft sweetness going on. Taste. When the arrival hits you, it's spirit driven, but the integration with the cask influence is fantastic. The casks have clearly been brought together and spent time. In other words, I strongly suspect that the casks are vatted to marry together for a significant period prior to bottling. Or optionally, it's been in the standard time in a hotter time of the year, maybe May, June, July or August, when marriage tends to happen more actively. The casks have been assimilated by the spirit beautifully well, while allowing the signature of Kingsbarn to remain voluminous, expressive and genuinely interesting. You can second guess, because we're not experts on different yeast varieties being brought together and how they work. We're still learning from when we encounter it in the glass. But when you have two types of varieties of yeast being used in a fermentation, this is genuinely interesting and refreshing for the single malt whisky drinker, and something the distillery should be proud of. All they have to do now is tell us on the label how long the fermentations take. It's this micro detail that really sells the original authenticity of the experience for more seasoned, experienced whisky customers. Let's have another. I'm going to add a drop more water actually, because this is wonderfully rich, and the more I dilute it, the more you start to bring out the subtleties in the whisky, which I'm looking to do. I have been spending time with this over the last month, and what I've really noticed is after the initial pour, when you first open the bottle and you're thinking, it's fairly generic. But once it starts to oxidise, once it starts to settle down and open up, and feel free to give the bottle a shake to help it do this. But let it settle down afterwards before you take a pour. The natural, understated, soft, youthful complexity is coming through loud and clear. This is beautifully made whisky. It really is. Thoroughly enjoying this, and more than happy to recommend it to you. It's not big cask influence stuff. It's still relatively young, but it's just at that age that everything's really coming together, and the cask influence is showing its credentials successfully. Fruity, intense, gingery, apple notes, lemon sort of candy notes, pastry notes, cereal rich, cereal sour, cereal umami. Now, we don't actually come across that much in modern single malt whiskies, and therefore it is a testament to this particular brand that they have the self-confidence and the expertise to carry it out so successfully. Are we seeing some Scotch mist appear in the glass? We're seeing a little bit starting to appear now. Now, I have to say, in defence of Kingsbarns, that I'm recording this in the month of May, and therefore the ambient temperature in the bothy is higher, and therefore the presentation of Scotch mist confirming non-chill filtration is going to happen slower. If you want to speed up the process, stick a lid on it, right, and pop it in the fridge overnight. Bring the temperature down, and that will kick out the mist. We're looking for that. It's not enough anymore for distilleries just to say it when they could be misleading us. We need to see it for ourselves. We need to confirm the authenticity of applied statements. But I have to say, in my opinion, at the moment, this is unchill filtered. I'm accepting it as such. And therefore, what mark am I going to give Kingsbarns? This is the first time I've reviewed this brand. And I want to conclude by saying I'm holding off quite a number. I'm holding off quite a lot, actually, of the new release bottlings, the inaugural release bottlings from new distilleries, because I'm not on the hype train. I'm not just going to be reviewing them for the sake of being one of the first to review them. I want to wait till the brands settle down, find their feet, come of age, get a little bit of years maturation behind them, and then I will go in and buy a bottle if the price is right, and then review it for you. And it's something I can do because I'm buying what I review. 83 out of 100. That's a good mark for a young single malt. And I've given it a good mark for a very simple reason. It's really well made, it's delicious, it is an authentic original experience, and I'm thoroughly enjoying it. So, cheers. We're getting a slight chlorophyll and cologne note, a slight perfumed note coming through now. It's also quite resinous. The grain richness and the fruitiness coming from the barley is creating this soft, slightly citrus, bitter, aromatic presence. It reminds me actually of what I expect Australian whiskey to be in a few years' time, if that makes any sense. If someone presented to me that said, that's a New Zealand distillery, and if it was presented to me blind, I would totally get it. You know, this is something about these small new distilleries that are coming into our range of vision, our field of view, that we find our points of references to their character and identity are no longer confined to comparisons with other Scotch single malt whiskies. We're really comparing and contrasting with global whiskies now, global single malt whiskies. Very interesting development. I'm Ralphie. Pop back again for Ralphie Review 1026 Extras, in which I will be adding to my previous review in 1025 Extras, in which I talked about the problems that people are encountering with whisky cask investment scams. And in my extras, I'm going to actually offer practical solutions, which are an opinion, they're always an opinion in this channel, for people who have been affected by what they believe or perceive to be whisky investment scams. This conversation really needs to happen. It's happening in this channel. See you soon.